Okay, we're going to be going over the worksheet, the TI-84 worksheet on how to use the calculator, but first we're going to do it algebraically. Okay, so for number 1, 5 radical 72, 5 square root of 72. A square root means, like, if I ask you what's the square root of 25, most of you guys should know that that's 5. And the reason that is because 5 times 5 makes 25. So the square root of 25 is the same thing as 5 times 5. And because it is a square root, you're taking out pairs. If there's two of the same number, it gets to leave the square root. So it gets to leave the square root, and you get to cross them out, so then it's just 5. So if we had 3 times 10 times 3, and really they should be down to prime numbers, so to be honest, the 10 should be 2 times 5, not 10. I'm going to put 2 times 5. So here, do we have pairs? Yeah, we have 2 3s. So it means the 3 gets to leave because it had a pair, but the 2 and the 5 didn't have a pair, so they get stuck inside, and it's 10. So that would be the final answer. Sometimes they're perfect squares, sometimes they're not. And again, if you had 3 times 2 times 7 times, 7. Again, if you have a pair, they get to leave the square root, and inside would be 3 times 2, which is 6. Let's say we did have another pair. So let me cross this out, and let's say that we had another 2. Well, then the 2 also gets to leave because there was another pair, so the 2 is outside, the 7's outside, and the 3 gets stuck. So the final answer would be 14 radical 3. So what we're trying to do with the 72 is that's the one that you want to look for pairs because it's in the square root. So you're going to change it to prime numbers. So what two numbers multiply to 72? Think of any two numbers. 8 times 9 should be one that comes to your mind. Okay, what two numbers multiply to 8? 4 times 2. 2's prime, so it's finished. 4 needs to be broken down again. What two numbers multiply to 4? 2 and 2. Those are all prime. What two numbers multiply to 9? 3 and 3. Those are prime. So what that means is that the square root of 72, I'm going to erase this, is the same thing as 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. And again, I got those numbers from here, 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 and here. And outside there was still a 5 already. So you're taking out pairs. I have a pair of 2's and a pair of 3's. That means they get to leave the square root. So there's going to be a 2 outside and a 3 outside. And inside is this 2 that gets stuck. So then my final answer would be 5 times 2 times 3. 5 times 2 is 10 times 3 is 30, and then radical 2. And that would be my final answer. So it means that 5 square root of 72 simplifies to 30 radical 2. And you can check your answer on the calculator. If you put it in, it should give you the decimal 42.4. And if you put this one in, it should give you the same decimal 42.4. So the answer was B. For number 2, simplify. This is just, if you look at it, distribution. -5 parentheses x minus 10 parentheses minus 6x. So the -5 is outside the parentheses. It needs to multiply into the parentheses. -5x, because -5 times x is -5. -5 times -10 is positive 50. This minus 6x is going to come down. So then what I have right now is -5x plus 50 minus 6x. And then now, last step, well, is this answer here? No, because we're not done yet. We also have to combine the -5x and the -6x because they both have x's, so they can add together. How much is -5 minus minus 6x? Or -5 plus -6. So that would be -11x plus 50. And this is the final answer. You cannot add those two together because one has an x and one doesn't. So the answer is A. For 3, you have a table of values, and these are just points, okay? This is the x and the y, the x and the y. So it's like -2, -4. That's 1 point. 0, -3. 2, -2, and 4, -1. They're asking what line would go through those points or represents that situation. Okay, the one with 0 is -3. That's the y-intercept. It should be the number without an x. So it's this -3, this one, and this one. They all have -3. So the y-intercept doesn't help us. But what is different is the slope. The number in front of x is 2, 1/2, -2, or -1/2. Since they're all different, it means once we find the slope algebraically, then we should get the answer. Okay, so for the slope, you need to remember slope formula. Slope formula is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So pick 2 points, whatever 2 points you want. They gave you 4 to choose from. I'm just going to pick the last 2. This is going to be x1, y1, x2, y2. So this is going to be my first point, which is why they're x1, y1. And this is going to be my second point. You could have picked the first one. You can pick this one and this one. You can pick this one and that one. It doesn't really matter. And now we plug everything in where it goes. It says y2, so that would be -1 first, and then y1. And then on the bottom, x2, 4, and then 2. Right, so in order. y2 would be -1 minus y1, -2. x2, 4, minus x1, 2. Then you do your math. Okay, -1 minus -2, well, they turn positive. So I would get a positive 1 at the top. -1 plus 2 is 1. And 4 minus 2 is 2. So my slope is 1/2. So my equation should be 1/2 and then x and then the y-intercept, which is the one next to 0. So that's -3. So the answer would be C. Evaluate the function f of x. So f of x is x squared plus 8x plus 12. This is just the function f. The name of it is f, and that's the equation to it. They can call it something else. They can call it g of x. They can call it m of x. It doesn't really matter. This one's called f. And they're saying, hey, the f, the function f, this f equation, put -6. The x has changed to -6. So everywhere you see an x, you're going to change it to a -6. So I'm going to put parentheses squared plus 8 parentheses plus 12. And there was an x here and here. That's going to change to a -6. And now I just need to do my math. -6 times -6 is 36. 8 times -6 is -48. And then add 12. And now I just subtract them. 36 minus 48. That's going to be... Or you can do it in whatever order, really, because it's just adding and subtracting left. So if you wanted to, you can add 36 plus 12 and then subtract 48. I think I'm going to do that. That's what I feel like doing, but you could have gone in order left to right. So 36 plus 12, that's 48, and then minus 48. If you don't do it that way, so you get 0. If you go in order, 36 minus 48 is -12, and then you bring down the plus 12. So again, it makes 0. So f of -6 is 0. That means when you put -6 inside of it, the answer is 0. So that's A. Okay, absolute value. Absolute value means you have 2 answers. Because the absolute value, if I say, hey, what's the absolute value of -10? It's 10. Okay, so anyways. So we're going to solve 4x plus 8 equals 4. We leave it the same without bars. Or the answer could be 4x plus 8 equals -4. You only change the answer. But you're only allowed to do that if it just equals 4. Not if it equaled like 4x. You can't just make it equal positive 4x and -4x. It doesn't work. It has to just be a constant. So then all you're going to do is solve for x. Okay, what's the opposite of adding 8? Subtract 8. We get 4x equals -4. Divide by 4 to both sides. X equals -1. That's one answer. On the other side, subtract 8. You get -12. Divide both sides by 4. The answer is -3. So the answer is -1 and -3. Here they just wrote it a little different, but it's B because the answer is -1 and -3. Okay, those are not points. They were 2 separate answers. For number 6, what line is parallel? So we have to know what parallel means. It means that when you draw this line, so we can draw a sketch of it. Okay, negative, so where does it start? It starts at -4 on the y-axis, so I'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, so like here. And then the slope of it is the number in front of x. Well, the number in front of x is -1, because if you put a, so the slope is -1 on top of 1. So it's going down 1 and over 1. That's the slope. So it would go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. So the line would look like this, kind of. That's a sketch. Which line is parallel? That means it has to be going in the same direction, because parallel means they don't cross. So two parallel lines would look like this. Those are parallel. Or maybe this way. Or however, but they should not cross. So what has to be the same? The slope has to be the same. This part has to be the same because they're going the same direction. The only one that does that is D. This one has the same slope, -1. So it just means that it starts at a different number, -5, but it's still going in the same direction. So it's going to start at -5, but it's going to go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. And they're never going to cross because they're both doing the same thing. Versus these lines will cross because this one is going up 2 over 1, and this one's going up 3 over 1, and this one's going down 3 over 1. So they would cross with the original line. So the answer is D, they don't intersect. What is the vertex of the quadratic equation? So for vertex, you would have to remember, if you were doing it with algebra, the vertex formula, which is -b over 2a. Okay, so if the equation, so this is a is the number in front of x squared, which is -1, b is -4, and c is -7. So if I use my formula, negative, and then I put b, that's -4. And on the bottom, 2 and a, -1. If I do my math, I get +4 at the top because you had 2 negatives, and on the bottom, -2, and it turns out to be -2. So the x should be -2 because it says x equals, right? That's the formula. So is this x -2? No, it can't be a. Is this one -2? No, it can't be d. So the answer is between C and B. How do you find the y? Well, you just plug it in. So here, I'm going to erase this stuff. It's negative, and then it's x squared. -4, and then x, and then -7. We know that the x equals -2. We know that. We did that from here. So where you see an x, which is right here and right here, you're going to put a -2. So I'm going to put a -2, and then I'm going to do my math. -2 times -2, so I'm starting here is +4, but then there's another negative outside, so it is a -4. -2 times -4 is +8, and then -7. Okay, what's -4 plus 8? That is 4 minus 7. And then what's 4 minus 7? -3. So the answer would be that the y equals -3, the x equals -2, so it is C. Okay, what are the factors? So you would have to factor it. So two ways that you can do this problem is you can multiply this out, and if it goes back to the original, then that's your answer. Or you can factor it if you remember how to factor it. To be honest, I think I'm going to do this problem by multiplying, because you guys are pretty decent at multiplying. So yeah, that's the way I'm going to do it. I'm not going to teach you how to factor on this video. So this is A. This is option A. So if I multiply it, 2 to x and 2 times -3. That's 2x minus 6. And now I need to multiply it by the last binomial. You have to FOIL. So multiply 2x to both. So it's 2x squared. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 5 is positive 10x. And then -6 times x, -6x, and -6 times 5 is -30. Here, you would have to combine the two middle ones because they both have x only. So it's 2x squared, positive 4x, and minus 30. To be honest, I probably would have stopped. I wouldn't have done that step. I just compare the last number. The original ends in positive 30. This one was ending in negative 30. So it's definitely not A. Okay. For C, x times x is x squared. X times 5 is negative 5x. Or x times negative 5 is negative 5x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x, and negative 3 times negative 5 is positive 15. Again, this one is going to end in a positive 15, because the only thing that you can combine is the middle two, and that's negative 8 and positive 15, and the original ends in positive 30, so it's not C. And for the last one, here, the 8 is going to multiply with the 15, and that's going to go over 30, so it's not B. But I would just multiply D just to double check that that's the one that it is. 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Okay, now you bring down this one, because we didn't multiply that one yet. We only multiplied the 2 with the x and with the negative 3. 2x times x, 2x squared. 2x times negative 5, negative 10x. Negative 6 times x, negative 6x, and negative 6 times negative 5 is positive 30. And then what two can we bring together? The middle, because they both have one x with them. So 2x squared comes down. Negative 10 minus 6 is negative 16x, and then it ends in positive 30. Does it match this one? Yes, it does. So D is the correct answer.